2024 appraisal notices will be coming out from the Williamson Central Appraisal District in April of this year. There's a few key points you'll want to look at on the appraisal notice once you receive it. The first key points are going to be the values listed on the first page of the notice. So at the top of the notice, you're going to see a grid. In that grid are going to be the values associated with your improvement, which many people ask questions on what an improvement is. That is going to be typically your house or building on that property. Then you're going to see the land value on the property as well. So that is going to be your lot value. Then you're going to see the market value on your whole property. So that's the total market value for the property, which we believe the property was worth on January 1 of this year. And then after that, you'll see the assessed value. The assessed value is going to be after exemptions are applied to that property or your homestead cap has been applied to that property. This value is what's going to be used when multiplying it times the tax rate to assess your taxes for this year.
I would add also, when you're looking at the notices that you get in April from the appraisal district too, that is a place where you can also check to make sure that the exemptions that you're eligible for are already on your property. If you've already applied for the exemptions, that notice will include the exemption if it's been applied to your property. So that would be an HS for your homestead exemption, an 065 for your 65 or over exemption, DP for disabled person, and DV for disabled veterans exemptions.
Those exemptions will be located on your notice. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a box labeled exemptions, conveniently enough, that will go through each of those exemptions there. Below the values, you're going to see a few items. One of those is it will explain what the homestead cap value is. And that's a real important thing to look at if you have a homestead on the property from prior years. Now let's talk about the homestead cap. The homestead cap only applies to the property if you have owned the home for 2 consecutive January 1s. So if you buy a home 1 year, you own it January 1 of that next year, you have to own it for that full following year to another January 1 before that homestead cap applies to the property. That homestead cap is a 10% cap on a value increase for the assessed value only. Keep in mind your market value can continue to increase with whatever the market sales are in your area. In that area of the notice, you're going to see a homestead cap value listed in writing right below the values associated with your property. That difference, or that value that is listed there, is the amount of value that has been reduced due to the 10% cap. That is savings in value that you're getting as a result of your homestead being in place. Below that, you're going to see quotes from local media. So we like to let you know as property owners what the media has been saying about property values in your area. The last few years we've had some enormous growth in property values, and just so you know as a property owner that these values are not a result of us as the appraisal district wanting to increase values, but this is actually what's happening in the market within your area. And so you'll see a few quotes from media associated with that.
Would you say your values reflect the sales that are occurring in a person's neighborhood, not the other way around?
Great comment, Larry. I believe that is exactly right. So included in your notice, we'll get into in a few minutes, we're going to show you sales associated with your property. So we're looking at sales in your neighborhood that are similar to your property as far as size, quality, age, that sort of thing. And those sales in your area are what we value your property with. So it's not values across the county. So when we put out press releases that say values have increased 10% or went down 5%, that is an average over the entire county. So we want to look at properties that are within your neighborhood and what's happening on those properties. Right below the media quotes, we have a QR code that will be on the notice as well. That QR code will lead you directly to our website, and it'll talk about various things that are more frequently asked questions from property owners, such as what is a homestead cap? What does a homestead do for me? How did you establish market value? All of those items are actually listed on that QR code. We will also have the URL, the website URL. You can just type into your computer if you're using a computer for that purpose. Below that, you're going to get into what a protest conference with an appraiser will be like and how we schedule those. So if you decide to protest your property, which we'll talk about shortly, this is what's going to happen. You will actually get an informal meeting with an appraiser in our office first. And then after that informal meeting, if you're unable to agree with the value established by your appraiser, you can move to an appraisal review board hearing, and it'll be outlined on your notice in that portion of the notice. On the second page of the notice, it'll be the back page of the first notice, you're going to see the various ways to protest. You can protest by mail, you can protest by dropping it off at our office, or our preferred method, and it should be yours as well, is just protesting on our website. It's very convenient. You can log into our website, look for online protest in the menu at the top of the website, and protest in that method. It'll be quicker for us to process the protest, which means it's quicker for you to receive a hearing. So I'd highly recommend in the way of protesting that you actually utilize our website for that purpose. There is other verbiage that's required by the state tax code that we have to include in notices that you'll see after that that'll explain various things about the notice, including that on August 7th, you will have the availability to go to williamsonpropertytaxes.org, which is where you will receive an estimate of the taxes that you'll be due on your property. Keep in mind that we actually open that website up in August, but most taxing units don't establish their rates until the next month. And so just keep going back to that website until you're able to find the taxing units that are in your area and what rates they are proposing for that year. Below that, you're going to see the various entities that are on your property and what the values associated with your property and the exemptions associated with those entities are. And so you'll see school district, for instance, will have a $100,000 exemption on your property this year. That's new this year based on Senate Bill 2 from the last session. They increased the exemption from $40,000 to $100,000. And so you'll see that increase in the exemption amount listed right there. And then below that, you'll have a listing of all the exemptions that are out there for properties, both partial and total exemptions that are listed on the appraisal notice.
So the appraisal notices are typically mailed. You try not to mail them on April 1st,
right,
on April Fool's Day, but they typically go out the very first week of April, somewhere around
That's
that
correct.
time.
I think this year we're actually going to be in late March, but you're going to see those appraisal notices hit the mail at that time.
And at that time that notices are going out, you also would be able to go to y'all's website, search for a property, and see the value of that property for 2024 on your website at that time as well.
That is correct. Not only your property, but every other property in your neighborhood if you'd like. I'd like to go on and talk about maybe the most important thing you're going to see in your appraisal notice is the sales comparison grid. This is something that's unique to our appraisal district, and I think we're still the only ones in the state of Texas that provide this. And these are the actual sales that we use to value your property. And so you're going to see your property listed on the left, 5 comparable sales that occurred within your neighborhood, and then any adjustments between your property and the comparable properties that need to happen. For instance, if they have a pool and you don't, we're going to subtract that value out of the sale price before we compare it to yours. And the value you see at the bottom of this sales comparison notice is the exact value you're going to see on the front page of the appraisal notice that we have valued your property for that year.